This is DJ Dr. Chris.
And it's your favorite nurse practitioner, Bree.
Today I'll be talking about hip impingement.
And I'll be talking about hip resurfacing.
And after that, we'll pop in a bottle and see what comes out. Are you ready?
Oh, I'm so ready.
All right, Bree, what's going on?
I'm not going to lie, Chris. I got home from work today and I needed to already start drinking. So we will discuss what I am drinking later on in the podcast. But we are just falling back into normal routine after our whole honeymoon. It kind of sucks not being able to be on a private island anymore and having to stay in the house and go to work every day. But besides that, everything's back to normal.
Yep. Well, today we have Holly with us. She's going to be talking about our hip later, and we're doing a whole episode on the hip. So would you like me to start today?
All right. So what's going on in the rehab corner?
In the rehab corner, we're going to be talking about FAI, which is hip impingement. It stands for femoral acetabular impingement. When I get this diagnosis in, I'm like, darn it, it's a pain in the butt. Quite literally, that's literally a pain in the butt, right, Holly? She's saying yes.
Quite literally.
Quite literally. So what is it's basically a bony morphology. So the hip is a ball and socket joint, a lot like the shoulder, but the difference between the hip and the shoulder is the hip has got way more coverage. The socket itself is larger than the shoulder socket. Inside the socket, there's a soft tissue called the labrum, whose job is to deepen the socket and make the hip even more stable. So for some unlucky people, there's a change in the shape of the bone. So either the neck of the femur, which leads up to the ball, develops like a bony growth, or the inside, well, not really the inside, the socket develops more of a lip. Either one of those can be really painful and limit range of motion. The first one that's on the neck of the femur, it's called a cam impingement. And then the second one that's more of the socket is a pincer. Some people are really unfortunate and get mixed, which is both. The cam I see being a bigger issue typically because as you move your hip, your femur into the socket in certain positions, it scrapes away at the labrum. And over time you get tearing and you get a lot of pain. And there's certain motions that are almost predictable that are going to be painful. Usually it's hip flexion, so lifting your knee towards your chest, and any kind of hip rotation, either internal or external rotation. So this shows up a lot in squats. That's probably the biggest one I see because it's a lot of hip flexion and usually external rotation. As a therapist, it's kind of a tough one. There's not a ton we can do. A lot of times it's symptom management. It's usually the adductor or groin muscles get really fired up because they're probably trying to guard against movement. So a lot of times we're releasing tone in tight muscles. You'll usually find some sort of dysfunction somewhere, usually like a weak glute medius, so we're going to strengthen that. Sometimes you can do some joint mobilizations, which will give a little bit of relief, like joint distraction, because you're getting less of that bony grinding. And then there's things you can do too to play with the tilt of pelvis. If someone's in too much anterior or too much posterior tilt, that will change the relationship of the ball and socket joint and can cause more pain. So, but what it really usually comes down to is modification of the patient's activities. So for someone like Holly, who's very active, and she'll talk about that, who likes to do CrossFit, that's a lot of deep squatting, it's probably going to get exacerbated. If someone just wanted to walk, they'd probably be fine. But for deeper end range motions, that's where they run into that bony pain. So that's what I have for you.
Well, Holly, I actually want you to talk about it now. Tell us your experience with the hip impingement, how you first got diagnosed, what some of your signs and symptoms were, and like what are you doing now to treat it?
Okay. I'll try and make a long story as short as I possibly can. It's been quite the journey. Always been an extremely active person, wake surfing, horseback riding, gymnast back in the day. At the end of 2015, and some of that year, I was having a little pain on my right side with those activities. I would hurt myself wake surfing over the weekend. My groin would feel better, a couple weeks later, didn't think much of it. But end of 2015, I was thrown off a horse. It was a pretty bad accident. I spent the next couple of years doing a Rosti, which is like chiropractic massage. They use a lot of different techniques. Didn't find too much relief from that. Tried everything from massage to CrossFit, muscle, weightlifting, etc. And then in 2018, the end of it, I actually went on my honeymoon. And at that point, I started noticing just by flying and sitting a lot and standing a lot that there was more of a problem. My lower back started getting really, really bad. Beginning of 2019, started being unable to sit for 30 minutes, drive for 30 minutes. My whole entire right leg would go numb. I'd have pain all the way up to my middle back. At that point, I just knew my range of motion was gone. I hadn't gotten on a horse in 2 or 3 years. Was barely able to work out without pain. It just got really bad. So actually, that's when I approached you guys. Had an MRI, X-ray, showed cam impingement, torn labrum on my right side, both front and back. So the whole thing is torn. But labrum intact on the left side. Also a cam impingement on the left side. No pain on the left side. Went through PT at that time, had some relief with some of the massage techniques and the release and all of that sort of stuff. And at the end of it, after it was about 3 months, I think, decided to consult surgeons. After doing my research about surgery, decided to back off of that and approached a doctor who did prolotherapy and PRP and stem cell. So in February of this year, I started PRP. I did 3 treatments, had no relief at all. And then finally in June, we decided to do stem cell with a combination of Prolo. And that was just this past June. So from February to June in PRP, in a lot of pain, basically, I wouldn't say bed rest, but doing everything I can to kind of baby the accident. They also found some pubic symphysis diastasis, which I was having treated with Prolo as well to kind of close that gap. But in June, I had treatments for the pubis, the hip, and my lower back stem cell. And for the next 2 months after that, had more Prolo, and I have never had more pain relief at any other point in this 4-year now journey. I was amazing for 2 months. I got back into physical therapy middle of August. I was able to stand on one leg. I was able to lift my leg. I was able to do squats with minimal pain. It was incredible. After about 8 weeks of doing that, 6 to 8 weeks, kind of towards end of September, my pain is now back. A lot of muscular pain, a lot of the deep groin pain. I'm not able to go on walks like I have been the past couple months. I'm still doing minor things, minor little exercises on my own. But the next step for me is definitely going to be reaching out again to have an appointment in December for potentially more prolotherapy, potentially more stem cell. And then we'll see how that goes. And then after that, it potentially may go into surgery. My femur's flattened out at the point where it's getting there.
Wow, you really have been through the gamut. So
Yeah.
it's interesting. So prolotherapy seemed to be the one that gave you the most relief.
100%.
And what
yeah.
was the time frame between stem cell and then Prolo?
So it was PRP and actually Prolo combined, February, March, April.
Mm-hmm.
Went ahead and did stem cell the beginning of June, also with some Prolo in there. 3 weeks later, I had another hit of Prolo, and 3 weeks after that, I had another hit of Prolo. So that was, I think that put me at the end of July was my last round of it. And I mean, I went from a constant pain of a 5 to 6 to like a 2, 1 to 2.
It's pretty significant.
That's really impressive.
It was incredible.
We should probably explain what those all are for listeners. I think pretty much everyone knows what stem cell is. The idea is to rebuild the labrum. PRP, same idea. That's platelet-rich plasma, where they take some blood from the patient, put it through centrifuge, and inject platelet-rich blood back in with the same idea of hopefully this facilitates healing. So I wouldn't really expect relief from it. It's more of a long-term try to heal it and maybe then down the road some relief. Now the prolotherapy, you guys might have to correct me on this. I think it's sugar, right? They inject dextrose into the joint, I
That's
believe,
correct.
to trigger inflammation. It's almost like a reboot of the healing process.
100%.
Yeah, I've heard some good things about it. That's interesting. That's the one that seemed to help you.
So the stem and the prolo, those two. Now the idea behind him doing prolo pretty aggressively after the stem is because my labrum is not supporting, my pelvic structure. It's not holding in my femur like it should. And because the femur is flattened out, my whole joint right there needs more support. So the idea was to strengthen all of the surrounding soft tissue and tighten it up to where it would hold that femur in place better. So that was the idea of it.
It's kind of the crux of the problem. I mean, it's the bone scrapes with the labrum. The labrum's job is to keep it stable. So the whole thing becomes unstable and scrapes more. It's almost like this downward spiral. It's pretty terrible.
Yeah, which I'm sure other people with FAI, my pain moves. It's usually constant in the groin, but it moves around to my butt, to my side, to my back. It's frustrating.
Yeah, and that's what I see as a physical therapist. Almost everybody complains about the groin pain. And I think it's trying to do the job of what the labrum was supposed to do, which is stabilize. It's almost like going into override mode. I wonder if you mentioned a pubic diastasis. I wonder if the adductors are really working hard. Maybe they're pulling apart pubic symphysis. So I don't. That's a complication I actually hadn't heard about.
That was something that wasn't found until my prolotherapy doctor looked. Via ultrasound, you can measure the bone spacing, and my bone spacing was a little more than double what it should be. So that was contributing to my whole, the joint instability.
Wow. You do not have kids, right?
I do not.
I'm just going to warn you, if you do plan on having kids,
I know.
Yes, you already know, expect more issues at pubic symphysis. Because the ligaments will loosen even more, and it's going to become more unsteady. So, I'm sorry, Holly. You've had a rough ride.
I was like, he just threw another little downer. I was like, you're going to need some wine.
I'm well aware. It's again, like I said, it's been a journey with this thing, but that's what you get for being athletic.
Yeah, so hockey players get it a lot too, and I always wonder: is it this in the gymnasts as well? Is it the sport that causes it, or is it that the sport kind of requires a lot of end range motion, and maybe a lot of people have this? They're just not exposed to that end range, so they don't do things that that take that joint to a spot that's painful.
What's interesting to me is my right side, of course, is the worst side with it all torn up. But the cam impingement is a little bigger on my right side. In gymnastics, I always did more with my right leg. And
it's funny that you mentioned gymnastics, because that is why we had a caller, someone messaged me on Instagram asking about hip replacements compared to hip resurfacing. And she was a cheerleader / gymnast growing up. So I feel like a lot of hip issues come from the certain athletics you do when you're younger, going into adulthood.
Which does make sense. I mean, we're seeing this a lot with specialization in sports. Like when I was growing up, you played, soccer in the fall, hockey in the winter, lacrosse in the spring, or at least I did. But now it's like kids are playing the same sport all year round. So a lot of baseball pitchers, like young kids with bones that are still growing, are throwing so much all year and creating so much torsion through their humerus, through the growth plate, that they're getting morphology changes in the bone, and then their whole range of motion shifts. So I don't know which causes what, and maybe it's both, but it's definitely, I think we're going to find out a lot more down the road.
I think so too.
All right. So with that in mind, if surgery might be the option, why don't you tell us about a little hip resurfacing?
All right, guys, for your weekly dose of BS, I can finally say that because I am Brianne Stevens now. We had like I said, a caller call in, or not caller call in. That's crazy. That's like old school. But DM me in my DMs about hip resurfacing or a hip replacement. Apparently, she's had some issues. She was pregnant. She got a high dose of steroids. And then now her hip joints are not the same. And her physician, her orthopedic, says the best solution for her is a hip replacement. Now, she wants to know what the difference between hip resurfacing is and hip replacement is. All right. So, according to the Cleveland Clinic, people with bad hips have options between a replacement or resurfacing. So, what is the difference? All right, most people that have bad hips have osteoarthritis, some type of arthritis that is like eating away at their bones or causing their bones to harden. Ultimately, patients with hip resurfacing can have a little bit more activity after they have the procedure done compared to a total hip replacement. That is the main difference. It's like with a total hip replacement, if you were a runner, if you're doing like CrossFit, climbing, any kind of competitive sports, that's gone forever. Now, with the resurfacing, most people can go back to their normal lives. So let's see what the exact difference is. With hip resurfacing, it involves shaving and capping only a few millimeters of the joint surface instead of taking the whole joint out, putting it back in. That is the difference. Since this appropriate preserves more than patient's natural bone, it reduces post-operative risks as dislocation and inaccurate limp. Ultimately, patients with hip resurfacing can return to all their normal activities, like I said, and it works really well for younger patients like Holly or Carla to go back into their normal lives. The issue is hip resurfacing is not for all hip issues. So anyone that has avascular necrosis, this is not going to be for you. You need a total hip replacement. If you have osteoarthritis, they tend to do better with the resurfacing instead of a hip replacement as a younger person. So Carla, I hope that helps you, answers your questions. If you have any other questions on it, please don't hesitate to contact us. We would love to do more research, but that's about it. That's all I have.
Yeah, I'll add that the resurfacing is usually minimally invasive.
Yeah.
It's done arthroscopically, so it's a way easier procedure. And then, and if Holly's going that route, I think you're going to have a pretty, I don't want to say easy, but comparatively speaking, I've seen a lot of patients after they've had it, and they do pretty well generally.
So you should ask your physician about resurfacing instead of a total hip replacement.
I absolutely am, because a lot of the fear with the FAI surgery is that they do dislocate your hip to reshape it.
And she asked me as well, could she still have kids? And I told her, yes, you can still have pregnant. You would probably have to have a C-section instead of a vaginal birth because of the replacement. So, but I mean, that's what your ortho's there for. That's what your gyno's there for. I'm sure you were not the first one that has to go through this, so don't let people scare you. They've seen this before.
Well, I'm sorry you've had to go through so much. I mean, I'm glad you got to tell us your story, so thank you for that, because I think a lot of people are just starting off on that path and they don't know what they're up against. So
Right.
You've really basically been down the rabbit hole. So
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that.
Absolutely.
But don't worry, Holly's not leaving yet, because we are all about to pop open a bottle and see. I know, I've been drinking.
I'll still play the soundbite
and see what comes out. We can pop open another one. I'm sure it's empty by now.
All
right. All right, Holly, are you excited? This is like my sister Bethany. She said the first part of our podcast is boring, and she fast forwards to the second half because she's like, y'all are usually drunk and just start shutting down some shit.
Yeah.
I was like, people need education too, Bethany. But so this is the fun part of our podcast. So usually what we're doing now, we have a special guest. We usually do like our happy hour favorite restaurants in the Naples, Fort Myers, Marco kind of area.
Nice.
So do you have a favorite restaurant you would like to discuss today?
Favorite restaurant or happy hour?
Both. You can tell me both.
Okay.
Yeah, we can do both. Yeah, why not?
I'm a pretty big fan of Bartulia's happy hour these days.
That's a pretty cool spot. I
Yeah,
heard they're building another one, I think.
they are in Mercado.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was actually there a few days before Halloween, and I hadn't had like a good pumpkin-y fall cocktail.
Mhm.
And sorry, my dog's going crazy. Sorry.
It's all right.
But I just asked the bartender like what she could do, like whip me up something, and she made me the best cocktail. It was like this cold pumpkin ginger rum.
Yeah. They have like straight up mixologists in there, and the
Yeah.
oysters, and they have really good oysters there. I love oysters.
So their happy hour is, I think the oysters are $1.50, minimum of 6 of them. I think that's what it was. $1.50
It's a
per
pretty
oyster.
good deal.
Yeah.
That's yummy.
Yeah.
Are they yummy though? Like, 'cause
Yeah.
sometimes that scares me.
No, they're
Yeah.
I mean, they're not just like Gulf oysters, which I try
No.
not to eat.
Oh, well then that makes
You know,
me excited.
The Gulf is a little scary.
Oh, okay. So my restaurant for this week would have to be, and I know this is probably like not everybody's like, this is not a happy hour. I, for some reason, have been craving Five Guys burgers, and I've eaten it 3 times this week. And I think it's because I've not had carbs in so long that my body's like, what the hell is this? Thank you, Jesus, for letting you have it again. Because I've just been down in them.
You talking about the fries?
No,
bun?
the burger, the bun,
It's
the
not much
whole
carbs in
burger.
that.
I feel like it's a lot of carbs. Going from
Yeah.
like 12 a day.
Yeah, but you need like a month of just eating carbs at this point. Like
I
the
hope so.
stress is over. Just let yourself relax for a bit.
What about you, Chris?
Well, I'm totally unprepared this week, as I told you. So I'm just gonna throw it out that I know I like. So if you're at Bartulia, you can walk across the street and go to True Lux. I love True Lux.
Yeah.
It's just a beautiful place. They got great seafood. They used to do like a lobster tail happy hour thing. I'm not sure if they're still doing it, but it's an awesome spot. My wife likes it because she can get this martini that they put like dry ice in. It's like all foamy and stuff. It's cool.
It's not the orchid martini, but I know I get that one too because it's just
Orchid
pretty.
something.
No, because there's a black orchid at Ocean Prime. So I know it's not an orchid, but it's really cool because it just has
I know the one at Ocean Prime you're talking
Yes,
about. Yeah,
that
it's an
one's so
event.
good.
Yeah.
I just drink it because of the orchid and the little
Yeah.
ball.
Do you eat
Of
the orchid?
course.
No,
You can eat flowers, right?
They're good.
eat some flowers.
Yeah. I always eat the orchid.
Oh, see? Yeah, you can eat orchids.
Do you?
Yeah.
I drink my drink way too fast. So by the time the orchid's like melted, I'm already on like a 3rd drink. So I have a brand new ice ball.
Mm.
All right. Are we going to ask Holly some questions?
We're asking Holly and Chris. I don't know why he thinks he's about to get
I'm
out
trying to
of
get out of
this.
it. Trying to get out of it.
It was
I
supposed
did-
to be my week, but
I did
Chris
bad
is like,
last week.
Oh no.
all right, so we're moving on to our next segment. I said, are you smarter than a PT? But since we have this wonderful special guest this week, it's going to be just like common sense questions that everyone should know. All right, a farmer had 752 sheep and took one shot and got them all. How did he do it?
Took one shot.
Like he took a shot of alcohol and then shot them all.
Got them all. Got them all what?
He got them all.
I reread it.
A farmer had 752 sheep and took one shot and got them all. How did he do it?
I have no idea.
No, me neither.
He took a panoramic view.
Oh,
It's so cheesy.
I knew it was
so
something like that.
cheesy.
Oh, all right. Next one.
I don't like that one.
Whatever. How many times? Oh, wait, I've already did that. Chris got it wrong.
Well, then ask Holly. See if she gets
No.
it right. See,
Okay, I'll ask you, Holly. Okay.
Okay.
How many times can you subtract the number 5 from 25?
4. 1. 4.
What? 4? Is that your final answer? Are you like Kristen going to blame it on the wine?
I said an infinite amount of times,
I know what you said. It was wrong.
which is very wrong.
The answer
Four,
is
I have no clue, so I'm going to guess 4.
1.
1. Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was my other answer.
Yes, I hate that one too.
That was my other answer. Actually.
All right. You were closer than Chris. You changed it to 1 and then you started second guessing yourself.
Yeah.
Chris was just
She
out
was
in left field.
Literally infinitely closer than I was.
Did I say 1 right after?
You did say 1. You said 4.
Okay.
Then you go, no, 1. No, 4.
Yeah.
There are 5 oranges in a basket. How will you distribute the oranges to 5 people such that 1 orange is still in the basket?
Huh.
These damn oranges in baskets.
This one you have to think because I was like, that's like a tongue twister. I couldn't even read it.
Well, you're gonna reread it. Go ahead and reread it.
All right. Think about this. There are 5 oranges in a basket. How would you distribute the oranges to 5 people such that 1 orange is still in the basket?
You give one person the basket of oranges, and then they have to give 4 oranges to 4 people.
You are too freaking smart for this podcast.
Is that right?
Because Chris did not get it. You got it right.
I knew it. I was letting her answer. I didn't want to. I was like,
He is lying.
I'm impressed.
Horrible
Fake
at
news.
these.
Fake
So-
news.
I'm impressed. We're smarter than the PT. Good.
All right. Okay, final question. A guy is condemned to death. He has to choose a room. Room 1, a fiery inferno. Room 2, 50 assassins with loaded guns. Room 3, a room full of hungry lions that didn't eat in 3 months. Which room is the safest?
I feel like 50 assassins.
I do too, because you could at least like talk your way out of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But maybe they're in a circle and you just duck at the right time. They all shoot themselves.
Yep. Right.
But you were both wrong.
Wait. Reread the question.
No, it's too late. I already told you
right.
one's wrong. Room 3, because the lions would be dead if they didn't eat for 3 months.
Oh, God.
Oh, golly, 3
Oh,
months.
Golly.
Perfect.
It's so obvious.
I know, it's so funny. It's like you just have to like be patient and then it just comes to you.
I know, but the dead airspace is like pressure, right? You
I
can't just sit
say
here
it's the
silent.
wine. The wine gets you.
I'm getting another one.
Oh, and that's what we forgot to talk about, Chris. So every week we, as you know, discuss which wine we are drinking. This week we are going to drink, well, we've already finished 1 bottle, so we're about to open up a second one. It's a Barolo, everybody.
A Barolo.
It's so yummy.
So this is a 2015. How do you say it?
Yeah.
Quercia Bella.
Quercia Bella. It's a Chianti Classico, and it is from.
It's probably Italian, right?
It's from our wine cellar. It's Italian. It's an Italian wine. So we probably pronounced it wrong, so I'm going to spell it for everyone. It's Querciabella. So it's 2015. It's pretty yummy. We've already finished the bottle.
I feel like it's Quercia Bella.
Well, I'm going to go on to something I can pronounce. It's a Barolo. It is a 2013, and it is from Italy as well. So.
What a beautiful label.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the Italian wines tonight.
These is because it was free.
Wedding presents?
Yeah, I guess so. No, his dad just dropped it off for us. He likes to do that sometimes.
That's sweet.
I'll go open it for you.
So, are you drinking anything right now?
I am not yet.
Not yet. That's what I like to hear. Not yet.
Not yet.
So for our last segment, we always do, we just started incorporating this as the good news of today.
Ooh, I like it.
Yeah, it's just to give someone like, inspiration. I mean, because a lot has been going on lately, and I just like people need something to be happy about. So this one was actually from Instagram. I don't know if anyone out there follows Cameron. She's from Southern Charleston. She's actually from Anderson, South Carolina. Cameron Wilberly. She's used to be Eubanks. She's actually from Anderson, South Carolina, where I grew up near that town. But she posted something about the California National Guard. Apparently, there's a bunch of fires going on in California, and it's crazy out there. But there are these 4 to 5 guys that the California National Guard, apparently, there were some couple hundred civilians that were trapped, and they were surrounded by the fires in California. 2 pilots led this incredible rescue, Joseph and Kip. It said that they were so dangerous that everyone was telling them to come back in, don't go, don't try to save them. You can't see, like you can't like look at your radar and see. So what did they decided to do? They went down there and rescued them anyway. They used their night vision goggles. They searched for the land spot, the boat that the flames are around, got everybody on the aircraft, and they brought them back to safety. And I wanted to just give a salute out to them. Thank you so much for your service. Thank you so much for caring about people that you put your own lives in danger to save others. So I want to recognize them this week.
I love good news.
Me too.
We need it these days.
Yeah.
Well, that's about it, Chris.
Shall we wrap it up?
I think we should wrap it up.
So once again, Holly, thank you so much. You're an awesome guest.
I know. Thank you so much for coming on.
Anytime. If anybody has any questions about my journey or wants to know more, is going through it, wants somebody to bounce stuff off of, please feel free to share my information, email, anything.
So what we'll do is on our Instagram page, _poppin_bottles, we will tag Holly. You have Instagram, right?
Yeah.
We'll tag Holly's Instagram, so that way you can DM her and then you can get her information and y'all can talk to her about it. And if you have any other questions, of course, don't hesitate to ask us. Don't forget to subscribe and listen, and we will see y'all next week.
All right. This is DJ Dr. Chris.
And it's your favorite nurse practitioner, Bree.
This is Poppin' Bottles. See you next week.
Bye, guys.